Namaskar, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. I have someone really special from Canada today. When we talk about Canada and India, we always like, oh, Canada, why someone from Canada? What will he give us? Here's a patriot from Canada who's fighting the same thing that we are fighting. I have with me Mr. Rohan Kumar Pall from a channel called Ro Uncensored. Guys, you should watch, subscribe to his channel because trust me, you guys know the kind of work I'm doing for Uncle Trudeau. He's doing the same sitting inside Canada. All respect and trust you me, these guys are fighting the scourge that we call Khote in India. Namaskar, thank you so much. Welcome to the show.
Namaskar, and thank you so much to all your fine viewers. I really appreciate your time, Adi. And I have been, following you, and I love the work you're doing. You've got a vast knowledge and array that we need over here in Canada because we need to be able to get rid of the scourge here. And the only way to do that is to know your enemy. And how do you know your enemy? You got to talk to the people who know your enemy. And that's what I'm doing right here. And I'm getting the inside scoop. Canadians have no idea the kind of trouble we're in. They just do not have a clue. And just with a little bit of the background that I have, I'm able to bring some information to them and show them what's going on. So, Adi, I'm going to need your help to get me up to the top speed I can, so I can free our country from this menace.
Thank you so much for the kind words. Let me just begin with this thing. You're a Canadian patriot, and that's something that you made amply clear to me that, listen, I love my country, which is great, and I appreciate that. As a matter of fact, I respect that a lot because that's what we need. We need to have patriots fighting for our country, fighting for our rights. Uh, and when two patriots sit together who have a common enemy, it's easier to kind of defeat the enemy. So let me begin with does the average Canadian know and feel about these Khalistanis running around on the streets nowadays?
So what I would say to you, Adi, is this: is that the average Canadian doesn't have an understanding of a brown person is a brown person. How can I put it like that? You got a
Hmm.
turban or you don't have a turban. If they see a guy named Muhammad, they know he's a Muslim. If they see a guy named Singh, they know that he's a Sardarji. That's about it, I would say, the average person. So what I've been trying to do is, and unfortunately, the Khalistani have been doing this conflation. They have been conflating Sikhism with being a Khalistani. And that is the biggest problem I see right now. I'm trying to tear that apart, that conflation, so that people understand that Sikhism and being a Khalistani are not they're not the same thing. They're not one and the same. They're separate things completely. So that's what I've been working on. And I do not believe right now that the average Canadian has that understanding yet, but I'm trying to put that out into the airwaves.
But the factor that amazes me is that a country like Canada, which is well educated, if I may, and it's not that it's a dumb society. It's not that it's it's a well working society. It's got money, at least till a recent future. Now recent developments in Canada have been really really sad, but how have they lost the way and not been able to see the scourge building up within the society? And why is it that freedom of speech, which is a very valued uh, trait about Canada, is kind of being misused by these guys? And it's just nobody says anything about it.
Okay, well, I'll tackle the first part first. So, how come they can't see what these guys want? It's because I think they've been very good about hiding it. So
Hmm.
until now, they've been co-opting most of the gurdwaras. I get calls from people, Brampton, Surrey, all these areas where they're like, look, Calgary, where they tell me these are now effectively Khalistani recruiting grounds. Okay, they've got photos of Parmar, the guy who architect of the Air India bombing. They got photos of this guy in the Gurdwara. They venerate the people who are what they call their shaheeds, the martyrs. And
Hmm.
and you look and you think, hey guys, like should we really be looking up to these people? But no, but the average person, the average Canadian white person has no clue what's happening here. So they hide behind this, this woke ideology in the sense of, hey, you're criticizing me. We Sikhs are being, or Sikhs or whatever they say it, right? Because nobody even knows how to pronounce it here in Canada, and they say we're being persecuted in India. That in India we're actually persecuted as a persecuted class, which is why when there was this, I try to show the audience, right, Canadian audience, that. there's tons of Sikhs in India that they're not being persecuted. But this idea, there's this persecution, this leftist idea, that that everybody's under assault for something, whether it is because of your sexuality or your gender or who knows what, right? So they fall into this persecution kind of victimhood thing, and they do that. Oh, anti-hate. I got targeted online by saying, you're anti-Sikh. There's some Canadian organization. If you criticize Khalistanis, they say that you're anti-Sikh. So that's the first part to your question. And the second part to your question was, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to remind me, brother.
No, I mean, why is it that the society is kind of left a blind eye? That's, to me, it's an educated society, right? It's
It's
not a society that is not, it does not know what's happening around it. It's a well-aware society. It knows what's the realities of the world. It's part of the Western world. It kind of knows how things work. How is it that this whole thing has been accepted?
I think the average person on the street, just like the average person in India, is concerned with their own personal well-being, putting food on the
Yeah.
table, working a job. They don't really worry about, geopolitics or the internecine arguments between different tribal groups, right? Like, you ask the average person, and even myself, frankly, I'll be perfectly honest with you, it's very hard to unravel the all the different conflicts that have led up to the Palestine Israel war and all the rest going on in Gaza. It's so much to it, right? So it's really who's got the louder voice. And the WSO, which is the World Sikh Organization in Canada, which really should be just called the Canadian Khalistani Organization. Okay, these guys have infiltrated our parliament, every single group, which has enabled them to then promulgate their messaging across all the airwaves, saying we are being persecuted. We're Sikhs. We're being persecuted. We're persecuted because we want to separate and we want to have our separate homeland in India. But no mention of the fact that Lahore won't be included in Khalistan. So.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Why? Because that's the Pakistani footprint, and it's so funny that you're one of the only Canadians that I've actually seen that have actually spelled it out. That why isn't Lahore there? I mean, I watch a lot of bloggers from Canada criticizing the Khalistani movement, and let me be honest, some of them are really irritated with this entire thing because they say these guys are spoiling my country. But then none of them actually know the realities of the fact that there is a sinister uh, country behind it, which is actually known as Pakistan. They have
That's right.
no clue. So why is it that has it been ignorance, or have people forgotten history, which with regards to? And I know you've done a lot of work with regards to the 82 Air India bombing. You've spoken about it multiple times. Do people don't know about that?
Look, I'm going to be honest with you, Adi. Who was killed on that Air India bombing?
Canadians?
Well, were they Canadians? Were they white Canadians, or were they
No,
Canadians that
no.
looked like you
Yeah,
and me?
yeah.
You understand? I mean, I'm just being perfectly honest with you, right? So the thing is, it's that when you talk about the Air India bombing, it doesn't hit a nerve the way that we think it should, but it just doesn't. Okay, not to say that they're inhuman, but you got to remember when there's a flood in a third world somewhere, the average person just thinks, "Hey, man, that's all the way. It's outside of the circle of concern that you have, right?"
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's your humanity is constricted to a certain level. It's constrained. You can't care about everybody and everywhere and what's happening everywhere. So, whereas if you walk down in your city center and the fentanyl drug crisis is so high that you see druggies everywhere, bent over, hunched over, then that hits you a lot harder because it's right in your face, or somebody who's been affected by it. And that's the reason I try to bring what the Khalistanis are doing. I try to relate it directly to what is happening with our society here in Canada so people can understand that it does affect you. It really does. It's not just an external threat. It's not just Pakistan, then funding and these guys go over the border and they bomb something. It's not about that. It's the fact that these people are actually literally disassembling our society from the bottom up.
The issue that I see, which is the most critical, and you've kind of put it across very clearly, that it's disassembling the society. And a country that is large in size but small in population. It's easy to connect with the people around the place. It's easy to spread the message. In India, it's 1.4 billion. By the time it reaches the last guy, it's like, but years. But it's just so easy. And it's not that Canadians are not connected to the internet. Canadians are not aware. They're educated. It's amazing to me that these rallies are allowed on the streets. Now, of course, I can see certain amount of resistance from the local people there and stuff like that. The local Hindu groups have resisted, yes. But that's, of course, because they've been targeted. But I don't see the average white Canadian or average Indian Canadian who's been there since generations,
Sure,
probably two
sure.
generations, coming out and saying something about it. Why have they taken it as reality? That, oh, this happens. This is freedom of speech.
I think so the thing with the Khalistanis you got to realize is that they rule by violence.
Hmm.
Okay. So a family friend growing up, I'm my mother's friend, and I don't want to name her exactly because of this, because she said to my mother, "Look, I like what Rohan's doing, but just tell him these people are very violent." I mean, my own mother, I think she annoyed a Khalistani supporter back in the day. I'm talking 20 years ago, and he said, "Hey, they're having a drink. It's a party. This is family friends," and he was literally, get the freaking sword off above the mantelpiece. I'm going to decapitate you. Like this is
What?
yeah. This is. I'm telling you have no idea the craziness. It's not like it's like absolutely, like literally threatened to decapitate people, and that's how it is. They are bullied. You have to realize,
Wow.
Ujjal Dosanjh, right? Who became the BC
Yeah, yeah,
premier.
yeah.
Right? This guy was hit in the head with an iron bar, right,
Hmm.
and it cracked his skull. I think he got 80 stitches in the head.
Yeah.
So now I don't know if it's at that level still, and I guess we're going to find out, right? Because I'm not going to stop because these guys inspire me, and I do not want my country destroyed. And I really hate the fact that they're conflating Sikhism with Hinduism, not Sikhism with Hindus, but Sikhism with Khalistanis, and separating out Sikhs and Hindus. I grew up going to Gurdwara, going to Mandir. My father from Jalandhar and my mother from Delhi. That's after partition. But anyways, point is that I went to both with beautiful community, beautiful love. What I learned is my mother taught us some Hindu prayers, and I went to Gurdwara, and it's like, and I was very inspirational stuff when you read about the gurus and all this. You get inspired, right? It's a way for
Yeah.
you to connect with something that's way beyond this level, this earth. And it's very inspirational stories. And that's why when I went down to India, I took my wife, we went to Bonta Sahib, we went to Golden Temple, all this kind of stuff. Actually, I didn't take her to Golden Temple. I went there myself. That's another story entirely. The point is that they're separating out the communities, and they're absolutely destroying the peace that we have here in Canada, creating what I believe can potentially erupt in communal violence. And I just won't have it. I won't let them.
The worst part about the whole thing is that this whole thing has come into politics. And whatever answer you give, I want you to be safe because I understand the issues in Canada. But the politicians in Canada seem to be well complicit within this game. And what I see is that people like Trudeau, Jagmeet, and all these guys, as a matter of fact, even the conservatives who are no better than the rest, probably, yeah, okay, fine. Let me give them a little discount. Let me say that they are 10% or 15 or 20% better than the previous guy. I mean, Trudeau is amazing. As far as we God
he's
bless
the
him with a
best,
long life.
right? Long life.
I always say this, that everybody in India is like, oh no, we need to throw Trudeau out and this. Why? Why?
But you're
No,
loving you're
no.
loving the circus, huh?
Obviously, when your enemy is making the worst mistake of his life, never disturb him.
True, but man, it's my country. You know what I mean? I
Yeah, yeah,
get
I'm
it. I
just
understand.
with,
I
with
know.
all
I
with
know.
all humbleness.
I know. I get it. I
Why
get
is
it.
it? Why is it that the people don't come out and say, "Listen, dude, stop this nonsense. You've created a banga with." And I'm not trying to be very big about India and everything like that. India is one of the
Yeah.
fastest growing economies in the world. Canada is not. You should be linking with India and kind of trying to grow back to what you were before, rather than taking this thing. So why is it that the politicians don't understand this?
I don't think Trudeau cares about all that. I mean, he has very
Right.
famously said, yeah, he's very famously said that he doesn't even think about the budget. That's known in Canada. The budget will balance itself. All right. This is ideology. They're pushing ideology. That's number one in Canada. In Canada, it's ideology rules. Okay, so that's what it is. Whatever little group you're a part of, and I know you guys got your own problems over there, right? With a radical Orthodox Islam coming in, and it's the same kind of thing here. We got those guys too, right? They're targeting even Jews, Jewish people, right? There've been a lot of occasions with Hamas supporters doing it. We have all the radicals of the world have congregated and concentrated in Canada, and our leadership apparently believes that this is natural, normal, and they use this wording freedom of speech, but of course it's not. Our news is not even Canadians cannot read news on Facebook. I hope you understand that. Like, we're not allowed to.
Yeah, yeah, I know. There was a huge controversy when India said that Australia Today was blocked, and then Canadian, oh no, all news is blocked. I'm like, okay, sorry.
All news, right? Even better. I know. They're nuts.
You're like, okay, fine.
Yeah. I mean, so your question really is, it's like, why are they allowing it? I can only answer I think it's ideology. I don't think it's economics. I think it's ideology. Of course, we should be trading with India. Of course, I mean, when I see,
mutually beneficial, yeah.
I'd say so.
It's mutually beneficial, and that's the funny part of it. So, what do you think is the future of a guy like Trudeau in Canada?
I think his days are numbered. But here's the issue: is that because of vote bank politics, I still think so. I think the last poll I looked at, it was like 14-point lead for Conservative Party, which is which is Pierre Poilievre. But the problem is that number was a little higher a couple months ago. It's dropping a little bit. So who knows now? There's just so many people. And this is, I happened upon this. I didn't make this up myself. I thought it was such a clever idea. Somebody said, this is the inversion of democracy, right? People used to choose their leaders, used to vote for your politicians, but now your politicians choose their voters by importing them in, right? That's what they choose their voting bloc. They import them in, so they choose their voters. I thought that's exactly what's happening now. They import who they think will vote for them, and then they're lifelong voters because they just give them free stuff. So I don't know.
They're basically collecting a vote bank as they tried to do in America. And do you think is this a preparation for the next year's election?
I think so. I've seen many liberal rallies. You're going to see a very super active courting of small demographics, small in Canada, right? But these demographics have more and more power. These groups, these identity politic groups. So, unfortunately, the average Canadian person is not being represented, and then you get this reaction too. Okay, and it's so unfortunate. I'm telling you, Aadi, it is really unfortunate because I believe they're almost fomenting an actual racism. They say that people are racist, but they're not. But they're creating it by impoverishing the regular Canadian and then giving freebies to people who just show up.
So, wow. I mean, I'm just going to take the American example. I'm sure the Canadians are looking for a Canadian Trump.
Oh yeah, we want one, but the thing is that we don't have a real populist leader. We just don't. Pierre Poilievre, yeah, he's better than Trudeau. You could put Bozo the Clown in there right now, be better than Trudeau. Get him out of the circus. But do we have a real populist candidate? There's another party. There is the PPC. That is another part, People's Party of Canada. There is another party, but they don't really have. If anything, that party can do is to, push that Overton window so that the certain ideas are now acceptable to be discussed. That would be good. But in Canada, it's just such a leftist country. Even the shadow cabinet deputy prime minister under Pierre Poilievre, which is Melissa Lantsman, I mean, she's in favor of UBI, universal basic income. So what's that going to be? I guess impoverish us and then put us all in the dole, right? On the government teat forever. I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. We don't have a Trump.
Sheesh, that's kind of that's not very encouraging to hear. But when you actually look at a country like that, and you have now the Trump effect, which is taking place within America, and you can see that the Canadian establishment is kind of scared of it. You can find out, and with the way that the foreign minister in Canada and everybody else has been kind of responding to, oh, we'll deal with them, we'll do this, we'll do that. Do you think they can? Because the threat is of actually getting a lot of people uh, running away from kind of from America and coming into Canada.
Yeah, well, I think you know more about this than me, and I'm going to have to pick your brain for this. But the number of people, I mean, that they're threatening to let loose on us, we have no border control. We have no border control. Roxham Road. So I went down there and I did a video. This is a just Quebec. So you got
Mm.
Ontario, Quebec, and then you got right down the states, right? I mean, just for your audience, I don't know if everyone's familiar with the geography layout, but there you can just walk across, and the RCMP is there, and they actually like escort you over. They don't turn you away. It's part of the, excuse me, it's part of the people walk across the border every day, is what I'm saying. And then they get freebies. And it's just, man, I mean, they're impoverishing us. And I'm telling you, it's creating a blowback, it's creating a pushback, and it's not necessarily going to be good for the average Indian person. It's just not going to be, because they're going to think, hey, are you one of those people who are ruining my country and just taking, while I can't even pay rent?
The recent events that actually took place in Canada, which actually hurt everybody, was the violence that took place in front of a temple.
Yes,
And
sir.
India has been kind of whatever. That's their country, their game. Let them do what they want to. But this violence kind of ticked a nerve in India, and people said, "No, okay, wait, this is not acceptable." And then the voices started raising up, and then you had even the Hindu voices within Canada retaliated. Of course, that ought to have happened. I'm not condoning violence. I don't like violence, and I always say this, that it's not the answer. It actually creates more problems than solutions. But one can understand the people that actually did the violence there. Okay, fine, you got attacked in your temple at a time where people are just getting life certificates, and a lot of those people inside were Sikhs.
Of
So,
course.
God damn it, what are you doing? I
Well,
mean,
they got to get their pension, right?
yeah,
Sardarji, an elderly Sardarji needs to get his pension. So what's the problem?
yeah.
No, I agree completely with you. And it is, as you said, the answer is not violence, communal violence. So my wife Soraya, right? She had she was raised in Rwanda, and the genocide in '94. That's when she left, and she still carries around the the bullet casings. Uh, I mean, what do you want? My own family, right? They left during partition. You tell me, what do you want exactly? You want to see you want to hold your child? Well, you want to rock them to sleep when they're riddled with blood? You tell me. I mean, this is nonsense. These people don't understand what they're doing, and that's the reason that they incensed me so much. And I had to say something about it. And that idea of conflating Sikhism with this Khalistani, death cult nonsense, I'm
Mhm.
just not having it. So that's really what got me going. I know it is for you as well. I think we've talked about it before. This is the big thing. And communal violence, that right there, I'm not going to have it in my country. I got a beautiful, very peaceful society, country. People, no matter what people tell you, I'm telling you, there's very little racism here. It's always been amazing. It's been fantastic. And these guys are ruining it. So I'm just not having it.
How many of people like you are there in Canada today?
There's a
What would
lot
you
of,
say is
yeah,
are there a silent majority, or are they
yes, sir.
now waking up and saying,
Yes.
enough, we got to stop?
That's exactly it. So I get calls, I get messages. There's a silent majority of people who are like, enough's enough. If you stood up 5 years ago, right, and you said something, I'm telling you, these guys, exactly what we were talking about with Ujjal Dosanjh, right? They would hit you in the head with an iron crowbar, and they threatened to come to your house. They threatened to do this. They threatened to do that. I mean, you've seen it, right? Talking about my daughter online, right? It's just they're crazy people. Yeah, that's how they are. They're just there's something wrong with them, right? So But the vast majority of people have had enough of these people's antics, and they're waiting. And you've seen it. That's why even the Hindus over there coming out, and there's a lot of, I'm telling you, there's a lot of Sikhs as well. They're just like, they don't like this because they know what this leads to. So there is a silent majority that has had enough, and that's the reason I think there's so much response when we speak out, right? When we all speak out against us, there's so much positive response in Canada too. Canadians are tired of being held hostage by radicals of any stripe.
To me, the most funny thing was pro-Palestine protests, and see, I'll tell you what.
Yes.
The basic consideration of anybody who, when he looks at the West, he says, "Yeah, it's a Christian country, Christian Jewish country." That's fine, nothing wrong in that. I have nothing against that. But when you see churches being burnt, when you see synagogues being burnt, and we don't see anybody saying anything about it, and you're like, "Yeah, what's wrong with these people?" When a temple gets attacked, we are all sad. We want to do something about it. And here the Christian majority just sits there and says, that's freedom of speech. We're sorry it
No.
happened.
Adi, I'm telling you that they are fomenting chaos. People don't feel like that. That's how it seems, because Canadians are restrained. Okay. It's a very civilized country. But you know what they say, don't wake the sleeping giant.
So, that's what everybody is afraid of, because the last time the sleeping giant woke up, and you know what happened after that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, for me, the main thing is that, people are now, I see a lot of Canadian patriots who are banking on Poilievre. Is he the answer?
Man, look, I mean, I hope for the best. I think he's the only alternative that has a chance of beating Trudeau. That's realistically. Is he the answer? I hope so, right? Harper was Prime Minister Harper, who was
It
predecessor
was very
to,
good. Very
right?
good.
Yeah, yeah. He,
He
he
actually kept these Khalistanis at bay. Yeah.
right, right. He kept the Muslim radical extremists, right? The Islamists. He kept them at bay. He kept the Khalistanis at bay. He spoke out against his, the Tamil Tigers, right? All these, whatever group it was. You guys want to go Hamas? Anybody going too far with this stuff? Nope, not having it. But Pierre Polyev, I see. Here's the fundamental thing. I think what's happened is that the demographics of Canada have shifted so much in the last 10 years that Pierre Polyev can't even, to win. I don't think he can even come out strongly against him right now. I don't even think so, because they've imported so many people like this that he has to pander to some degree, right? He has to. So I don't know. I hope so. I hope so. I think he's the only guy who can beat Trudeau. That's for sure.
In India, there's a saying that you might have the government, but the system is ours. Is that the same thing in Canada as well?
And that's a great saying. You might have the government, but the system is ours. Yeah, I've never heard that. That's an awesome saying. That's look, we'll find out. Okay. We've got Trudeau was elected on major part of his platform was electoral reform.
Mm-hmm.
And where did that go? Never happened. That was 2015, by the way. So we're looking at 10 years in or 9 years in, and where's the electoral reform? No, because that first past and post system they don't want to change it because they've rigged it, and not in the sense of they managed it. They know what they're doing with it. They know how to run it. Anyways, we'll find out, I guess.
So what's the solution that people like you are looking at as far as this thing? Because one thing I see in Canada is, throw them back into India. Why would India take them? So India trying to get Canada to all this stuff. We'll be like, no, that's fine. You want some money? We'll give you money. We don't need these people.
Look,
I mean, jokes apart, it's a serious question. But what's the solution?
Well, so I'm gonna actually say this: is that I get it, because Canada has supported these people. The successive governments of Canada, when you look into it, successive governments of Canada have absolutely supported these people.
Mm.
So it is our problem. It is absolutely our problem because of our government, what they've done. So I understand the joke. I understand the black humor. I get it. I mean, it hurts me because it's my
Yeah, I
country.
mean, of
But
course, that's not
yeah,
my intention. I hope you
no,
understand that.
I know, brother. I know. It's just that I get it though too because I mean, you can look through it, right? I mean, I think India even wanted this new guy, right? What is his name? Arshdala, right? They asked for
Hmm.
him.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, why not turn him over? No. All right. And I'm telling you, if you watch CBC, the news we get. So they even took this guy, Banu, and they took this guy and they did a CBC documentary, and they made it out like he's a sympathetic character. He's just fighting for his homeland. He just wants freedom in his homeland, but India is a bad country and they won't let him have it. And they're Sikhs for justice. You know, Sikhs for Freedom, World Sikh Organization, but there's nothing to do with that. There's nothing to do with Sikhism. It's all to do with Khalistanism. So I don't know what the solution is. The solution is going to be this: it's going to be bring awareness to it, groundswell support from the ground up, grassroots. That's what I'm focusing on, and then pushing our politicians to have some nerve, some guts, and say enough's enough. But I think
The
it's got to
problem
come
is
from
that
that. Yeah.
the problem is that what I see is that you're fighting an ideology. You can do a lot, but you can't kill an ideology. You can suppress it. Like the scary thing for me, what I see in the West is the infiltration of the radical Islam and the radicalization, as per se. What we see as far as the free Palestine, free. When we look at that, we're like, what's wrong with you people? And there people in your country, as a matter of fact, who've gone ahead and infiltrated these guys and said, so where is Palestine? They have no idea.
No, I know, I know.
So what's the solution when you have such infiltration into, uh, might I say, and I don't want to sound racist, even the white Canadian population?
Well, I'll tell you
it's
something. Yeah, no, go ahead, brother. Yeah.
it's only people like you who are fighting it, who actually understand, have some roots in India and all that stuff. Is the white Canadian population today kind of realizing what the issue is?
They are, because the Khalistanis in this case, so to put the Palestinian issue aside for a second, actually, it works for that too, now that I think about it.
Mhm.
They pushed too far. They did too much. They went too far. You understand? So when the average Canadian person, when they see, these Khalistani creeps, right? They're creeps going out and attacking a place of worship of another faith. I mean, that wakes everybody up. They're just like, what's going on all of a sudden? Right? What is happening? When you see the same thing with the Palestinian Hamas supporters going out and celebrating after these attacks on Israel, you're like, what are you guys doing? Like, what are the bomb blasts and things? It's nuts. And look, there's war, right? Especially in that case, there's all kinds of stuff going on. But the bottom line is this: is that you wake up when you see the absolute atrocious behavior in the streets. That's what it is, and we're seeing that here now. So people are having enough. They're like, can you? The immediate response is a knee jerk one. All of you go back home. Y'all got to go back home. You know, every one of you. I don't understand what you guys are fighting about, but this is Canada. Just get out of here. Go. If you can't be Canadian, you got to leave all that stuff behind. I think that's a good first step feeling, but then there's a sort of like showing people, explain to them what it's about, and that's what I try to do, so that the average Canadian person who doesn't know all this so much lore, it's like coming in on the seventh season of a TV show. You know what I mean? You don't know the characters.
Mm.
You turn on Netflix and you go right to season 7, episode 13. You have no idea where you
What's
are.
happening? Mm.
Right. So you got to like catch them up.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah.
But then the advent of drugs and stuff like that within the society, which is something that we get, when we look at it, we get scared of it. And in India today, when a lot of people ask me that, sir, should we send our kids to Canada? And I'm always saying, be careful. I don't say no, because it's none of my business to kind of
Of course.
advocate for anybody else's children. But I always say, be careful. give them good values. If you are sending them, make sure that they know what's right from wrong, they are aware of things, and fair enough, send them, but be very careful. Keep a track of your children. What are they doing? Keep a track of their finances, because they should not be stuck in anything and they come to a no way out situation and get stuck with these gangs. And that's my answer to everybody. um, are children in Canada being told the same thing?
It's a good question. My wife and I homeschool our kids because we don't want this wokest, radical leftist ideology in them, and we've always have. My eldest is 16 or 17 now, right? Our daughter,
Oh,
yeah,
impressionable.
very much so, very much so, and she's good because she hasn't been infected by this ideology. She just hasn't, and I mean, that's a great question. I hope they are. The most I would say, I mean, every time I meet, youth, Indian youth, any kind of background, whatever it is, religious background, but I mean, they're always very like, I mean, they're great. They're always the cream of the crop. That's what you get. That's standard. That's what we see here in Canada. I mean, we see great students now. What we're seeing is diploma mills. Okay, and it's giving a bad name. It's giving a very bad name to Indians, right? It really is, because people are misusing the food bank, and they're teaching others on the internet how to do it on YouTube, on TikTok, and that's not the Indians that I know. That's not what it is. It's never been like that. So I don't know what's happening. Maybe I have no idea what's going on, but there's a total breakdown in values. But to
Wow.
speak to it's sad to see. It really is. And I have continuously, I think to a certain degree, we've got to kind of police our own, right? You can't behave a certain way. You got to you got to be part of the country, and you have to, man.
You gotta assimilate. If you're going there, then you need to live like that. Like, I stay in South India. I'm a Punjabi. I speak the South Indian languages. I love
Exactly.
South Indian food. You gotta
Dosa.
assimilate. Don't be,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I love it. It's beautiful, fantastic
Dosa and
stuff.
sambar, right? There you go,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, dosa, sambar. I mean, there's just so much more than that. And
Idli.
South
Yeah.
India makes some very good non-vegetarian food. Although I'm a vegetarian myself,
Oh, right
but
on. Yeah.
beautiful stuff. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Uh, I speak the language. I follow the traditions and culture here. And if I have to do a festival of some sort or a puja of some sort, I will call a local guy who does the puja the way it is done here, and I appreciate that. That's how, if I'm living in the land, then I bloody well behave like the land.
There you go. You got
That's
it.
how it
Exactly.
is. You
Yes, sir.
assimilate yourself. And that's what I don't understand in Canada, that these little ghettos that they've made. So basically, they just don't want to they want to keep their pinned in Canada.
That's right. Canadian pinned. You got it. You got it. So this is what I'm telling you, that's a perfect description of it. So when you go to India now, right? You got to remember, so many of these people who created, like Brampton and Surrey, they might have come 50 years ago,
Mm.
but they can't even speak English, a lot of them, and they stay in there cloistered. And India has moved on. Indians are, they're intelligent. They're like forward thinking. They're, economic growth, and there's, sure, you keep your your history and your religion and everything else, and your rituals, but man, you got to open your mind up. But that's not what we see here, and it gets smaller and smaller. And there's this weird psychological effect. I believe that people feel like they're losing their identity. You know what I mean? It's like the diaspora. You're surrounded by people who are not like you. So then you end up surrounding yourself with people who are exactly like you and holding on so tight to his identity. And that's how I think the youth also fall into radicalism, because they're not quite sure. They're like mixed up. Am I Canadian? Am I white? Am I Indian? Am I Hindu? Am I Sikh? Am I Christian? What's going on? They're so lost with identity, and they
Mm.
become susceptible to radicalization. And you can see that with the NSYF, that's National Sikh Youth Federation in the UK, which is basically, again, a Khalistani front. And you can see these guys are like speaking perfect British English. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like me trying to speak Hindi. You know what I mean? It sounds like I'm a foreign speaker. It sounds really goofy. I know it does, because
I
that's
mean,
what it
that's
is.
fine. That's fine. You've
Yeah.
been there all your life, and we don't expect
What are
you
you
to
gonna
have
do?
an Indian accent. Yeah.
Well, that's it. You know what I mean? I could say "Mera naam Rohan hai." You know what I mean? People would laugh their asses off at me, right? You know what I
That's
mean?
fine.
I can
All,
understand
honestly, in India, it'll be appreciated. You'll be like, oh, this guy's making an effort. That's nice.
Yeah, yeah. Well, man, the more whiskey I drink, the better I can speak Hindi. And if I and if I drink just enough, I can even my Punjabi starts to come back too.
Yeah, that happens to all of us. When you have a little more, then the Punjabi
That's
comes out.
it. That's it. But people are susceptible. They're susceptible to radicalism, and they are backwards. It is exactly the Canadian pin. It is that. It's just I don't even go. I only go if I want to have the real down home food. But even then, my mother will make it, or my wife will make it, or I even learn how to cook for my dad. So I mean, I'll make my
See,
own. I don't, yeah.
and last question that I have for you. There's a very insightful talk that we've had, and of course, I think the time that we spent before this interview as well
Good time.
was even more because we got to know each other, and I think we'll be able to do a little bit for our countries.
I think we
That's
will.
good. I don't have any personal hatred about Canada. It's just these elements that I don't like, and the politics I don't like of that country. And it's not. Uh, I keep making fun of Canada quite a bit. Uh, that's not because I hate the country, because I let me make myself very clear. I make fun of the situation in Canada rather than the country itself.
Right.
Right? So I hate Pakistan,
Yeah.
right, because of obvious reasons, but I don't hate Canada as per se, because I know a lot of people, the large silent majority in Canada is like,
Right.
when I go back home, people abuse me. When I show my Canadian passport in India, people will say, "Tu kahan se aaya? Idhar aa, come here," and all that. And that still won't happen in India, trust me, because the population is aware, and it's understanding that these very small elements. But what happens is, in India, Canada has picked up a very bad name. As I was
Of course.
jokingly saying that I kind of make fun of Canada quite a bit.
Sure.
The reason I said that is because in India, Canada has picked up a very nasty name that, oh,
Rightfully so.
Canadian, nah, just keep it away. We don't want it. We don't want it. And that's something which is really terrible to me, because it's a lovely country that a lot of my own family has. A lot of my family is there even now.
Okay.
So, and to be honest, I mean, my parents visited it a couple of years ago. They had a ball. A lovely
What do
country.
they think? What does your family think? Who's here?
Oh, see, that's the whole thing. And
Okay.
that's what I find really amazing. They're like, no, 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 we are not concerned. It doesn't. Uh, Everybody just wants to kind of remain safe. There are very few people fighting back. And that's what kind of amazes me. I'm sorry to my family, whoever hears this, they won't like me after this, but they just don't want to do anything about it.
Well, I mean, a lot of people look. What's the number one concern of the day, right? Put food on the table, take
Food
care of
on the
your
table.
family.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what it is. My own brother. So this whole trucker protest that happened, and that's actually how I got my channel. Like that's how my channel grew, because I was very involved in that political stuff. Because Trudeau was overreaching. He's very quick to tell you guys that you don't have freedom of speech, and then as soon as we start protesting, they come out with their friggin' horses and run over us roughshod. They straight trampled a grandmother. I have a video on my channel. Like I'm there. We're running from the horses. They trampled people. It's crazy. Anyways, so they're very quick, but most people just want to put food on the table. They don't want to get involved. My own brother doesn't want to get involved because, again, it's the same thing. And I love my brother. I love my nephews, but I mean that's just what it is, right? People have other priorities, and I can't fault them for it. But I do believe there is a very large swath of the population that has had enough. So we're going to find out. Time will tell.
And will tell indeed. Thank you so much, sir, for joining in. It's been a pleasure actually connecting with you, talking to you. And guys, I must say this: like this video, of course, subscribe to my channel, of course, and also check out Rohan Saab's channel, because he's doing some very, very good work, very, very brave work in a country like Canada, where if you cross the line, well, you have the RCMP sitting there in front, and we all know what the RCMP does as far as investigations are concerned. He's done a lot of work on the ground. He's got connect, and he's, the news you guys can't watch in India, Canadian news, which is blocked in India, he can show it to you because he's actually reacting to a lot of those things. So watch his channel, subscribe, and support all of us, because we are fighting for our countries. We have no enmity with Canada. We just don't like these Khalistani elements and the political penetration that we've been able to do in that country. That is just about it. On that note, thank you so much, sir. Lovely to see you, and let's keep in touch. And of course, let's work together to try and see how we
Absolutely.
can help this situation.
Thank you so much, Adi. I really appreciate what you're doing. I love seeing patriots in India representing, and you inspire us. So thank you so much, Adi, for your time, brother.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.